Hey, Freaky Leaks, welcome back to another episode of For Freaky Girls podcast. We're so excited about tonight because this is a freely open discussion about something not a whole lot of us have experience with. One of us may or may not have experience, but we'll reveal that later. Hey, ladies, how are you?
Hi.
Good. Tired.
Tired. Are you tired about tonight?
Tired.
Not the good kind of tired either.
Well, tonight we're talking about spiritual sex and how it refers to the concept of engaging in sexual activity with a heightened level of consciousness and spirituality. It involves connecting with your partner on a deeper level, exploring the sacred and transcendent aspects of intimacy. I don't think that a lot of us realize how much we have actually participated in spiritual sex, probably because we was having such a damn good time. We just didn't realize what was going on.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I like when you were just saying that, I was like, oh, well, maybe I have done a little bit of tantric type of, connection and just didn't know that's what it was considered or called. Just like, the episode where we talked about BDSM and we're like, people have participated in BDSM. They just didn't know it was called BDSM. So.
Well, in this episode, we're going to discuss how to intentionally use an emotional connection to enhance your orgasms, strengthen the bond between you and your partner, and why energy transfer plays a vital role in your sex life. So, Miss Felicia, I know you got a story.
So, you know what? Honestly, tantric sex is really not my it's not my area of expertise, but I've never actually tried it. It's one of those things that I used to always read about, but I never actually intentionally tried tantric sex. But spiritual sex. I mean, I do definitely believe in spiritual connections, and I think soul ties would be a great place for us to start. Just because some people believe in it, some people don't, but I really feel like soul ties exist. They absolutely exist. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize don't acknowledge, the importance of energy transfer, because that's what happens during sex, any kind of sex,
Right.
And I think that when it comes to soul ties, I know we've had a couple of discussions about soul ties on our Facebook groups and stuff, but I believe soul ties are absolutely real. I believe that it's one of the reasons why you should definitely be more, what's the word I'm looking for? Careful or proceed with caution when you are hooking up with people. Just because that energy exchange happens and you might be fucking somebody who's absolutely nuts, or somebody who has had sex with somebody who's absolutely nuts, and you hook up with a person and then you're wondering why shit just feels weird in your world, or why you feel weird afterwards. And I think that soul ties absolutely has something to do with that, for sure.
That reminds me of a conversation I had a few years ago with someone about, they say the average lifespan of a marriage is 5 to 6 years. And then if you can make it past that, then you'll or a relationship. Let's now refer to it as relationship, not just marriage, because there's all different types. And we got to talking and we're like, well, maybe it's that time that you two are taking to clear out the old energies. But you're too impatient to wait until all those old energies are cleared out to start just keep filling yourself with those good energies just from the two of you.
Yeah.
I know it sounds like something far out there, but that's just the kind of stuff we get into, which is probably what led me to tantric sex.
Yeah. So I am one of those people that I don't necessarily believe in soul ties. I can't say I don't necessarily believe in soul ties. I guess I just don't consider that's what it is. I feel like there are certain people and certain partners you've had, people have had intimate partners where you always have that connection, no
Yes.
matter how far and how long ago, you guys are intimate. But I don't believe that. I'm a person, I don't believe that every person I don't even want to say intimate, because intimacy and sex are two different things for me. So anyone I've had exchanged bodily fluids with.
That's a good way to put it.
I don't believe that their spirits stay with me. Like, I believe that certain people have, because I feel like, even, I've had one night stands where I still feel like if I, saw that person or met that person again, that we would have like that connection, just because that time that we spent together was so, like, I guess, a lack of better words, magical.
Mm-hmm.
But then I know there's some people I probably wouldn't. This sounds so bad. I might not even recognize you on the street because I had no connection with you, during our exchange. But I guess I just don't believe that I'm carrying some people's spirits, and they're carrying mine. Because so then again, I might be that crazy person that you refer to, that they carry it on the people. Maybe that's why, because I'm giving everybody the crazy spirit.
You funny. You silly. No, so here's what I think, and I feel you on that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that definition of soul tie might not carry, maybe you're not carrying, the spirit of the person, but I feel like you can't exchange energy with a person without carrying some sort of residual energy. Mm-hmm. So maybe I should clarify, the definition.
Yeah.
To maybe say that, so maybe it's not, maybe you're not necessarily tied to that person's spirit per se, but there's definitely residuals that are left behind.
Oh yeah.
In that exchange. Right. I'll say that.
I definitely believe that.
Yeah.
I think that's why, depending on the person, sometimes you meet a person and you think, oh my God, I could spend the rest of my life with this person.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And, whether they're feeling it or not, you feel this strong connection for some reason. Mm-hmm. And then there's people you meet and you're like, dude, can you hurry up and go the fuck home?
Yes. Yes. I guess because I feel like I'm a good reader of people. Mm-hmm. So if I don't feel a good, connection or like vibe from a person, I won't even exchange any type of intimacy or sexual exchange with you to begin with. So I'm not going to even allow your spirit to enter me. Your
literally
to enter me. Yeah, literally and figuratively. Yes. So like I have to have a good, with you to even go there. So
yeah, it has to be strong for me too. And I'm very much a sapiosexual. So if we've got that vibe going and you're communicating with me back and forth about mutual interests, please just get a mop and a broom now, because you're gonna sweep me and mop me up. That's almost like that fuck me or feed me thing. And if I get both, I'm a happy girl. I get a good vibe and a good convo going, and I'm yours. You don't have to have no game. I mean, that is your game. That's it. Just
Now define sapiosexual for people who may not know what that means.
I get turned on by stimulating conversations.
Oh shoot, sorry guys.
No, you're fine.
That exchange, even if it's a verbal energy, that exchange. If you can keep me stimulated through conversation, I'm yours.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there has to be some mutual interest there. You can't just be like interested to hear what and let me do all the talking. There has to be a back and forth. It has to be a conversation, not one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
So
for you, it's not really more so about the physical attraction. I mean, there physical attraction. Yes, there has to be at least some there, but
right.
It's more so about, the person's personality, their spirit, how they, how they present themselves and how they actually feel to you.
You can be the most, in my mind, the most attractive physically. You can be the most well-hung, perfect for me. You can be famous. You can be all that. But if you do not have the communication skills to handle me, it ain't gonna happen. Yeah. It ain't gonna happen. That's more important to me than initial physical touch.
Yeah. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Like, I don't
and a lot of people
about
just
status or anything like that. If you can't carry a conversation or engage,
right?
Then
that right there, engage. That's the most important part. Don't let me sit there and talk everything on my own, because I will, and then before you know it, I'm bored and I'm ready to walk out the door.
Yeah. Now for me, it's that, and you have to be able to make me laugh. Like, we have to naturally laugh together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I would include that. Yeah.
There is a term, and I can't think of it. There is a term for someone that's what attracts, like sapiosexual is, an intellectual, attraction. So, but there is something sexual. It's like something such sexual for people who they have to, somebody has to make them laugh in order for them to be attracted to them.
Yeah.
I can't think of what the term is, but I've heard about it. I've heard it before.
Me neither, but that's me.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was a term for it. I was just
Okay. So I'm not trying to make fun of anybody, but y'all ever seen that commercial where they're talking about, I can't remember the name of it, but it's when you laugh uncontrollably?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You're talking about the physical disorder where you just start laughing for no damn reason?
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. Them people ain't laughing for no damn reason. They getting turned on.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Possibly.
I don't know if I'm that.
Well,
when I get that, if
stimulated
I get that, that's
somehow.
the excuse I'm using.
Right. They're being stimulated somehow.
And I hope to be stimulated in my casket. That damn, not in that way, Fee. Don't give me that look. I mean, I better be vibing in my casket.
You better be dead in your casket.
You want to hop about that casket laughing? I'm out of here.
You better be dead in your casket. That's the only thing I want.
That did not come out right. People have to be like, damn, talk about necrophilia. Fuck.
Right.
What kind of cruel trick is this? I'm like, okay, so we can still get her.
No, that's not what I meant. No.
That's funny. I'm just messing with you.
I mean, y'all gonna be touching that casket going, damn, her vibe is still here.
I'll be scared. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't ready for all that.
Right.
That's funny.
He'd be like, fuck these braids, I'm leaving them behind.
Man, listen, I'm out.
Right.
Don't walk out with them. Stay in there.
Getting back to the spiritual sex, I think that we all have ways to do it. I mean, first of all, when I think of tantric sex, the biggest thing with tantric sex is no release. Like you're not sexually stimulating each other. You're right. You're barely touching. It's the breath, and there's so many things that go with it. So when I think of spiritual, I think I'm more of a spiritual sexual person. Like I like the soft touches, like, across my chest or behind my neck. We all have our little zones. Things like that can actually make me have an orgasm. Yeah. And if you're whispering in my ear and we just had a conversation, Lord have mercy, take me to whatever heaven there is.
Do you experience a lot of orgasms?
Right.
I believe so. I couldn't pinpoint what it is, but oh my God, I get really stimulated with conversation. I think that's why I like to talk so much.
Okay.
Because I really do.
So now how did you end up having tantric sex? Like, how did you get to that situation? Did you just decide you wanted to try it, or did the opportunity just present itself?
I actually got to watch a tantric session.
Wow.
Between two couples. that were trying to get other people, more educated about it. And I was really interested because, man, she's just like, she looks like she's just strung out on something, and she wasn't. It was just all this energy just flowing through the two of them. And you could, if you were that empathic, you could feel it.
So was there someone like facilitating it, like guiding them through it, or they were just
no, they were doing it on their own.
Okay.
They were experienced. They were teachers.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and they had no problem being fully naked in front of a group of people.
Yeah.
And that was a nice feeling to begin with.
Right.
Besides of them both being physically attractive, just knowing that they were that comfortable with strangers.
Yeah.
We had nothing to really be afraid of.
Now, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen it like on different like shows, docuseries, and things like that. And I know there's a lot of breath work. So for me, just I can see how you can get to a point of orgasm just through breath work. Because I mean, just think of other things you do, with types of breath work of, relieving stress. Or, meditation, things like that. Like you do a lot of breath work and, even yoga, like just different things like you're doing to relax your body. So I can understand how somebody can get to that point of orgasm with more intense breath work. So it's fascinating. Yeah. I've actually wanted to try it, just to see if it, I could get to that point. Because, at first you're looking at like, the hell they have an orgasm just breathing and because it seems like a form of meditation, and it's just like, how the hell are you really having an orgasm?
That's a good way to describe it, like a sexual meditation.
Yeah.
Well, I remember that there was this girl that I was associated with, this woman, however you want to refer to her, back then. And she and I hung out, and she brought me kind of into the BDSM world, taught me about, proper protocol, took me to some parties. And after a while, I was, I'm really interested in spiritual aspect of all this first. And that's when she got me into the tantric sex, and was the one that took me to this group setting of where we witnessed this couple doing this. Right. And so one night she says, do you want to experience it? Because she had experience in it. And I was like, hell yeah. Who wouldn't? I mean, what I watched was something, it was so strong. I can't even explain it, how strong it was. Like, I thought I was having orgasms just sitting there, and I probably was, and just didn't realize it back then. And so her and another gentleman that she practiced with, and it wasn't like some threesome sex orgy. Right. It was tantric sex. Like there was no penetration. There was no oral. And I swear we were together for almost 40 hours. And I swear I feel like I orgasmed the entire 40 hours.
Wow.
That's how good my body felt. When we got through, you would think that I would have been exhausted, but I had so much energy. It took me so long to come down. It was just like, it was hours and hours. And then I slept for a day.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So it's just like a constant high. Because that's what I would think, that I would be like exhausted afterwards. Yeah. But yeah, you're describing it as like this natural, consistent high. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those endorphins. I think I drained every endorphin I had.
Right. So yeah, so it's almost like kind of because you release all those chemicals in your body when you do have an orgasm. So with tantric, it's like a constant, like you kind of hit that button and it got stuck where the constant endorphins and serotonin and all that stuff is releasing into your body. Oh my God.
Yeah. And because of things that happen as you get older and toward my age, physical things that happen with your body that may not allow you to have quote unquote normal sex. These kind of things become more important to us because we don't have to put a lot into it, and it doesn't take a lot of our physical motions to make it happen.
That's a good point.
That is a good point.
Here I'm almost 60 and I still have some of the best orgasms of my life.
Right. Yeah.
Now, do you still practice tantric sex now?
Not so much tantric as like a cross between that and just being more in touch with each other's, what we want, what we expect. You know, they say don't go into it with any expectations, but there are certain expectations. Your first expectation is you want to feel really good throughout this process and at the end of it. So, you know, we know each other's bodies really well, and we know what each other likes, and we don't hold back, you know, and sometimes maybe one night I don't want to be touched, but he just wants to be touched. He just wants to have that release, that, you know, that end of work week release. You just need it. And sometimes you need it in sexual form. And I'm just like, okay, it's all about you, you know, so I can just lay there and do certain things to his body, and it happens.
Yeah.
Okay. So now for our audience that wants to learn how to do it, you know, what are the steps that you have to take? Because my only experience with it is watching Real Sex on HBO back in the 90s.
Yeah.
I love that.
I used to see some wild stuff. Like, they touched on tantric sex a lot.
Yeah.
It just seemed like it was a lot of prep work. Like, you know, you had to make sure atmosphere was, you know, put together. You had to be like fully engaged. So what is it that, you know, what are the steps that you have to take? And then what is it, you know, how do you get it started? Like, can you set the scene for, you know, people who have never done it before?
First of all, you and your partner are both going to have to be open. If you're going in there with big expectations of having these mind-blowing orgasms, you're trying too hard before you even start.
Okay.
And everybody likes their scene set. Some people like soft music. Some people like a bunch of candles, chimes, whatever. Set your scene that works for both you and your partner. What is it that makes you feel more relaxed and makes you feel the energy coming in? And take time with each other, you know, sit and look at each other naked on the floor, on the bed, on a pad, whatever, in a chair, and just touch each other, figure out each other's zones, and just start touching, and enjoy those feels that you're feeling, you know, and knowing that your partner is doing this to you out of their love and energy exchange with you is just, it's amazing. Barely being touched in certain places can just send you over the edge. And we all have those places. But it's when your partner commits to making sure that they're going to not only enjoy your touch, but they're going to assure that their touch is making you, you know, enjoying all this too. It can't be one-sided. It has to be that exchange. And it's not even. Sometimes it's 60-40, sometimes it's 70-30.
Right.
But being open to it, setting your scene, definitely read some good books. I have some in my library I'll have to dig out. And understand that Kama Sutra is not Tantra.
Right.
Kama Sutra is about positions.
I was going to say, also explain the difference, because that's an excellent point too.
Right.
Yeah. Kama Sutra is about old world positions.
Different positions. Yeah. Sexual positions. Those usually include penetration. Kama Sutra does. Yeah.
Well, see, many things factor in. I'm going to look at some of my notes here. Many things factor into spiritual sex depending on the individual. Preparing the scene and engaging in the senses by playing music, lighting candles, giving and receiving massages, the use of oils. Oh my gosh, the use of oils is amazing, especially with, and not that it provides a lot of heat, but you know, you can feel the heat from the candles. So along with that oil, if you're concentrating on that and you just let your body relax and flow into it.
And even some type of essential oils, like like lavender, or you know, different types of like chamomile, like or whatever. Yeah, those can help and set the scene too.
Yeah, it helps you create that spiritual sense and vibe that you're looking for. You know, there's just certain people just need that certain vibes to start on their road to that orgasm or that feeling that you want.
Yeah.
And for some of us, it's music and talking, and others it's playing video games, you know, gets them all turned on.
Yeah.
Even though that's not really spiritual, but it's still something that affects their spirit. And that's how I look at it. What affects your spirit? What gets you going? Share that with your partner, and then bring yourself down to the raw, look at each other. Don't be afraid to touch. I don't care what you think you look like. Don't be afraid to sit there naked in front of your partner. If you're going to screw him, you're going to, he knows what you, or she knows what you look like. So
I wonder if people would consider, and I don't know if everybody knows this term, but I think we spoke on it maybe in another episode, but pleasure mapping, like pleasure mapping with your partner. So like pleasure mapping is basically just you and your partner going through each other's bodies and just finding your different like erogenous zones, your spots, things that make you, feel good, and not necessarily like, again, this doesn't involve penetration, doesn't involve oral, anything like that. It's just you kind of feeling across your partner's body just to kind of get a sense of, their pleasure. So that could kind of be a spiritual experience too. And I've done that so I'm like, man, you do have a little experience in this.
Look at you.
I don't know nothing about no spiritual things.
You actually just described how we became to know each other's bodies. Like I would just lay down one night and I would just tell him, rub my body. And when I start moaning, you hit a spot. And and I like doing that to him. I like to when I hear that moan, I know that I've caused him some pleasure without actually having to have a physical sexual act.
Right. You don't have to put your mouth on it and or anything like that. Yeah.
Right.
So basically, essentially what you're describing is a sense of foreplay, if you will. So it's basically what it sounds like to me anyway, is foreplay on steroids. Like you're taking foreplay, and instead of moving into a physical act of actually having sex, you're taking foreplay and making that the actual act.
Yeah. So it's
a good analogy. Yeah, I like that.
Comes because of course foreplay is before play. So it's essentially it would be somebody consider that something, but this is the actual act. Yeah, that's this is to get you to that without the physical penetration or oral. So
I think the idea that a lot of folks have a hard time comprehending is how can you call it an orgasm if the guy isn't coming or if the girl isn't squirting? It's still the feeling.
Right.
What you're experiencing is the feeling.
Yeah. And we said it in before in episodes, like coming and having an orgasm are two separate things. Mm-hmm. For guys and girls. Like a man can orgasm without coming.
Yeah.
So and a lot of men, I know, well, not a lot of men, but I know there's some men that have actually have gotten to and I guess this one might be a spiritual aspect too, where they've gotten into the practice of semen retention.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where they're not, pleasuring themselves or having sex, and they're, kind of building that up, and that, has become a spiritual journey from the men that have actually practiced that. So I wonder if that's the same thing for women.
That's a part of Tantra though.
Yeah.
Semen retention. And it's big in a lot of cultures.
Right. So with women, would that be considered, would that be celibacy for us? Because it's not necessary. It's not we don't have cum retention.
Right. Well, think about it from this aspect. How many times have you had an orgasm during a dream?
Yeah. Right.
That's a mind fuck for your ass. Like nobody's touching you.
Right.
Yeah. You're asleep. Like you're literally asleep.
Right.
Nobody's touching you. In your mind though, your dreams seem real. Like what happens in your subconscious is your reality at the time that it's happening.
I've had an orgasm while peeing before, so.
I mean, I just, it's really, at the end of the day, it's really energy flow. Yeah. You know what I mean? I've seen videos where they did experiments where they had one person in one part of the house, watching porn, and like engaging, like actually, you know, like touching themselves or whatever, or doing things to like to have that physical orgasm. And then they've had another person in a different part of the house, but not necessarily all the way like in another room, but like in a different part of the house in the same room, if that makes sense. And they both were orgasm. They were both having orgasms. And she wasn't like, they weren't touching each other. They weren't engaging with each other, but it was the energy exchange that was happening in the room. It was two girls. And in this particular instance that I'm talking about, it was two girls. So the one girl was actually watching something. The other girl was not facing her, was not engaging with her at all. And yet she picked up on her sexual energy and rode that wave with her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I've done that a couple of times at some parties, walk in and see a dude and go, damn.
I was thinking that too, Fran. Like, I've been to some LS clubs and I had that experience myself. But no, I was watching something almost to that you kind of thing too, where there was this woman, she's a sexual coach, and she actually had a group session of women, and she was basically almost like teaching them how to masturbate, or like, you know, and it was very like, again, like meditative, spiritual, you know, setting. Like she had, you know, the pillows on the floor, she had candles, you know, soft music. She gave them all mirrors, you know, to look at themselves first, you know, look at themselves in the mirror, look, you know, get a feel for, you know, what their, you know, vulvas look like. And, you know, she was just kind of like coaching them through, you know, she gave them all little, you know, little vibes of whether they could use or not. And some of the women, but you could tell even in the circle, even though they were in a circle with other women, everybody was just in their own head. Like everybody was just in their own vibe. But like some of the women were saying, you know, afterwards, where they felt that energy in the room, and that kind of, like you said, rode the wave for them. That kind of helped them, you know, complete, you know, and get to orgasm. It was really, I'm like, I might actually, you know, be interested in doing a class like that, just to, you know, feel that energy from other people, to see if that either distracts me from getting to where I need to go, or, you know, aids in it. So that's, I thought that was an interesting segment. But,
I think every woman should look at themselves, if, you know, even if it's just at home with a mirror in your private time.
Yeah. Again, it's a spiritual experience, just knowing your body and knowing yourself, you know, and then you could have those experiences when you do engage in physical, you know, sex, and it will seem like a tantric orgasm every time, because you know yourself a little better.
Well, you know, what's really weird, and this is just something I do, is that I like run little personal pornos in my mind. So if I'm concentrating on someone giving me oral sex, I know what I look like. I know what they look like. So it's almost like, you know, a close in shot. My little mindfuck porno that I put up here. So I can actually think about that kind of stuff and have an orgasm without touching myself.
There's we talked about this before, but I don't know if we talked about it actually in an episode, or if we talked about it amongst ourselves, like during one of our meetings. But I remember finding a video on YouTube where they had like the megahertz, the actual sound wave that connected to, you know, your I don't know, to your chakra that helps you have orgasms or whatever. And you're not touching, you're not doing anything, you're just listening to that wave. And I started to feel like
a little tingle.
My lady been vibrating. Like I was like, oh, and it's so funny because like at first you're like, wait, am I making that up, or is that really you know, like you're kind of, you know, in disbelief at first, like, am I doing that? No, I'm just imagining that shit. But no, it really did work. Like, now I didn't have an orgasm off of it, but it helped to, bring that sexual energy, like awaken that sexual energy, and really just like in a meditative state. Yeah, I could absolutely see how it could bring you to orgasm at some point. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if that is considered a part of tantric sex. I mean, if it is, then I can check it.
Right. It may not be considered part of sex, but when you look at the whole aspect of spiritual sex, I think it absolutely.
Okay, well, I'll tick that box too. I'll take what I can get.
And I want that website or whatever.
I know. I want that video.
I'll have to go back to my YouTube history and find it. But
that video.
We might need to post that.
It was crazy. Right. I mean, you got to use headphones though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you need to really
you want to get out everything.
To get into it.
Right.
But I was just like, man, I want to see if this works. And I wasn't looking for it. I stumbled across it. And I was just like, all right, anyway. So I was laying in the bed. I was about to go to sleep.
That's interesting.
What a way to go to sleep.
Absolutely.
That's usually my... Look, that's usually what my Ambien every night anyway.
That's funny. Yeah. It could be a different way. I mean, you might end up
my natural Ambien.
If you start feeling those vibrations.
Yeah.
I didn't, because I forced myself not to. But then in on the flip side of that, like I've had an experience where I actually used sexual energy and arouse the energy where you get aroused, but you don't do anything to meditate to make things come into fruition. That's how I got when me and Bob went to go see Wildin' Out. When it came here, I was like, let me try this method of meditation and see if it works. I got them tickets.
Well, all right.
So I'm all about spiritual sex. I think now that we're talking more about it, I'm realizing there's so many different aspects, to spiritual sex. Doesn't always have to be about achieving an orgasm, but I mean, I know we're talking about it in that, in that aspect.
But just like you said, awakening that sexual energy, because for some women, especially, towards our audience, mostly women 40 and above, sometimes we lose that sexual energy just dealing with life, and sometimes our hormones and all the premenopausal and all that menopausal stuff happens, so where we kind of lose that. So if we can find other ways, if we're not engaging in physical sex because we don't have that that feeling or that desire, these could be ways to ignite that fire again.
And you know what, it's all different. I mean, you do you. It's what it comes down to is, how do you feel afterwards?
Right.
Some of us, we get a Band-Aid ripped off and we feel we're hurt, it's pain to us. Some of us get a Band-Aid ripped off and we're like, oh shit, where's the bathroom? So, it's how does it make you feel at the end of it? If you're not getting what you thought you would out of it, change some things up. Talk to your partner, get a different partner,
If that's an option.
Yeah,
if it's an option.
I feel like that should be an expectation for you anyway, for sex, period, for any kind of sex that you're choosing to engage in, at this point in our lives, like sex should rejuvenate you. You should, because of that energy exchange. But it's also a reason why you need to be very, I keep using the word careful, but that's not the word. Maybe intentional is the word.
Mindful, intentional,
of who you're choosing to have that engagement and that exchange with, because, your goal should be to walk away from it fulfilled, fulfilled, rejuvenated, of course, if depending upon what time of day you're doing it and how much physical activity you're engaging in, of course, you can be tired as well, but I mean, it's a good tired. It's like, it's
good tired.
It's the kind of tired where when you wake up that next morning, you got a little pep in your stuff, little glow.
I don't need coffee today.
So whatever kind of sex that you're shooting for, but I
Right.
feel like especially if you're doing intentional energy, you know, if you're looking for an energy orgasm, like, yeah, then you should be it. That doesn't surprise me, Fran, that you said, you know, I mean, it took me a while to come down, and then the next day I fell asleep, you know, because
Right.
like that flood of energy, that's like basically like an energy cleanse, a flush almost, you know, moving any
Right.
stagnant energy. So yeah.
And I even, I mean, I don't, it's not from masturbation, but I give myself orgasms through that while I meditate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not, it's enough of an orgasm to give you that rejuvenation to, you know, whoo, okay, now I can get up and go wash the dishes and clean the kitchen.
Right.
You know,
yeah, every orgasm doesn't have to be mind blowing,
Right.
toe curling, but just, you know, a little whoo. Sometimes you just need a little,
So you can, I mean, it's not, I mean, it's a self energy exchange if you can see that, but it's still an energy exchange. You're waking up your, you know, your energy, your body is, you're bringing it to a different feeling than it's normally not used to having, because who walks around with a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week orgasm?
Right.
So when you can give yourself that little pop here and there,
you
know, your body's like, oh, okay, girl, let's go get it.
There is that one woman who had like constant orgasms. I saw that. I don't know, it was some clip or something. I don't know if it was a show I watched where she
probably like sent me to the ER.
Yeah, like she was literally constantly having an orgasm, like it couldn't stop. I was like, that would be exhausting.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know if I'd want anybody come within 6 feet of me if that was going on.
I've seen a couple of episodes of that show, Sent Me to the ER, where the woman, and it always happens to the woman where she gets stuck in this cycle of her body just continues to orgasm like every 5 to 10 minutes. And she had to go to the hospital because she was like, you know, couldn't stop, and it wasn't even pleasurable anymore. It was like,
it was painful,
just make the shit stop. You know?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what makes your body do that. I don't necessarily need to ever experience that ever.
No, I don't.
That is not what we are talking about.
No, not at all.
At all.
Some of us say we'd like to have it 3 or 4 times a day, but I never get anything done.
You just up
too
here
old
just,
for that shit.
Just having random seizures. Like, what's wrong with that girl?
Right. I'm too old for that shit.
Yeah. Not at all.
Right.
Did you go through did we go through the steps that you put on here from
the I have them right here.
liveboldandbloom.com website?
No, we haven't. There's 11 ways that liveboldandbloom.com say to practice spiritual sex. Like we talked about, shoot for an energy orgasm. Use oils. Prep the room and prep yourself. A lot of people don't understand, if you're going to do this, don't come in from working out in construction and hop on the bed naked.
Right.
Be completely open. Don't go in with expectations. Go solo. Talk about it after, which is so important that you communicate about this. Incorporate breathing exercises. Maiya was talking about how important breath exercise was. And worship your partner as a sacred representation. I don't journal about it, but I know it helps for a lot of people, and they do suggest to journal about it as well, if for nothing else, to see your progress. You know, what kind of progress are you making? What kind of changes do you want to see? What are you shooting for? You know, are you shooting to build a closer bond with your partner? Are you just wanting to try it to see if you think you're missing out on something when it comes to the orgasm arena? You know, keep a journal, figure out the why. You'll figure out the how in doing it, but figure out the why are you doing this too. That might help to open you up more.
Right. Yeah, and I think, like I said, some women might, or, you know, even men might be looking at it as kind of like a recharge, you know, recharging that sexual energy within themselves so they could share it with their partner.
Yeah. Definitely.
That's good.
Yeah, that's what my husband has found out. It does give him a recharge. I mean, he's, it's he has some medical issues that surround our sexual health, and we don't always openly talk about them, but it's not because we're embarrassed. It's just that you just don't think people want to hear that kind of bullshit, but we know they do. So anyhow, this has taught him that just because he's lost the ability in one area doesn't mean he's lost it in other ways.
Right.
Like it took a while because all my tantric experience and stuff like that was years before I'd ever met him. But it took a while. But it's not. Men have a thing with their masculinity. If something happens, it's with
like
Black men.
Yeah.
Well, with Black men, they lose their testosterone at a much earlier age, start losing it than white men do, or any other culture. So you've got those two factors, which causes certain situations that can't happen anymore, and you learn to roll with it. So then when I suggested that we try this for both of us, not only has it given us a different type of sex life, which is still very enjoyable, and it doesn't put pressure on the both of us, because of some of the things that we know aren't going to happen. And every once in a while, believe it or not, something does happen. So when that does happen, trust me, you may not see us for a couple of days because we probably wiped out in the bed.
Right.
But it gives you, I think, mixing the spirituality with it gives you more of an appreciation for you and your partner's body, and the senses that you can not only cause your own body to feel that you relied on somebody before, but the senses you can get, the feelings you can give to your partner, the senses you can create that you're doing this for them. Like it said, treat your partners as a sacred, sacredly, in that area. It's I don't know. I can't talk enough about it because I think it's amazing. I've been doing it for over 20 years. It's not like I know a lot about tantric or anything. I only know what I've experienced, and I only know what I've discussed and what I've read. Yeah. And I can't remember half of what I read. So
I'm glad we did this episode, because I can see now how this can be an alternative for, those people who are, in our age group that are experiencing those different changes with their bodies, that need that alternative, if things are not happening the way that, they feel that they should, or if they feel like they've lost their sex drive or libido, with any type of medications that they're taking for, different, just different things that are going on with our bodies, because we've crossed that 40 mark. And then also just, different ways to connect with, the person or persons that you want to be intimate with, including yourself, learning new things about yourself. I mean, we still alive. We ain't dead. You know what I'm saying? So
and something I found out for me is not only has it brought us closer together, made our marriage stronger, it's spilled over into our mental health areas too. Mentally, our marriage is more healthy now than it ever has been. I'm not saying we're perfect, but we've just had to come to terms with reality that we're not in our 20s or 30s anymore. Things have changed, just like we've been told our whole life they would as we got older. We just didn't care to listen. And so we just found another road to go down. So, it pains me to see the marriages that break up over stuff like that. I understand that it happens, and sometimes it's a necessity, or partnerships, relationships, because some of us, and I was one of those, I lost patience a long time ago. It took years. This was not an overnight thing for us. This was an ongoing thing for years, and we're still not perfect together. We still have a lot to learn about these in our areas, because we're not getting any younger. We're still getting older. Other things are still happening. So it's a continuous learning process. There may be a day when, hell, we could just be laying there in each other's arms and have an orgasm because you're so happy and you let that and those endorphins release. I mean, there's just
that part.
Yeah. That's a feeling. That's an orgasmic feeling in itself.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I like it.
Well, ladies, believe it or not, we are at time.
Wow. I told you I could talk about this stuff all night.
Yeah. No, this was very eye-opening, for me, because
me as well.
I'm gonna be honest, when we went into this episode, I wasn't really for sure, what was gonna come out of it. But like it definitely has opened my eyes, and hopefully, it's opened the eyes of our viewers as well, that you have options, with all the changes that we experience, after 40, just in mindset, in relationships with your body, just, shit, we survived a pandemic, you know what I mean? Like, just, yeah, like you have options, you still got a life to live and a lot of good orgasms to experience. So, having an open mind definitely, will help with that for sure. And of course, we're here, for support. Right. So, as always, if you have questions, concerns, you want to know more, you can reach out to us on all of our
share your experiences. Yeah. Yep. If you've experienced tantric, sex before, if you've experienced some type of spiritual, sex, or even your opinions about soul ties, if you agree, with them, or if you don't agree with them, we want to hear about it.
Yeah, we definitely do. Reach out to us, hit us up at 4 Freaky Girls Podcast, or you can email us info@4freakygirlspodcast, and let us know what's going on, so we can share your story, or, however you want to do that. Yeah. But any final thoughts, ladies?
No.
Keep practicing.
Yeah.
Yes, as always. And so we have this will be our official wrap for season 3.
Season 3. Oh my gosh.
So we will see you on the flip side. And until the next one, keep it freaky, freaky leaks. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.